I just wanted to talk about real quick, the first thing, town hall. I don't know who all was able to make that. I thought it went fairly well. Wanted to hear other people's opinions. And Kay, I don't know if you have access to any of the stats and things that you might be able to share. Or...
Yeah, I can share some, and Carly can probably augment as well. So,
how did folks in general think that it went?
I think really well. I mean, the only thing that I was sad about was we didn't have as many people, but the actual content I thought was worth showing up, which is all you can hope for any meeting.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, I like the in-use section. It's basically it's kind of providing value to the people attending, right? So I think we get more attendance based on that.
right. And I think over time, if we keep showing how there's in the news and here's what we're doing, you know, how what we're doing addresses these things, then it creates this confirmation of the value that we're providing.
Yeah, I like the new format. I'm curious to see what the feedback is on some of that, if anybody had comments on it, because we didn't seem to get a lot of interaction. There wasn't a ton of questions. That was my only big concern, was are folks finding it useful or not, and especially with the format change.
So we had just, you know, some stats. Our first meeting, we had, I think it was like 140 registered and about 90 plus that attended most of the meeting. The second meeting, I think we had around 90 registered. I'm just recalling, I might have some of these wrong. And about 70 throughout the meeting. And then this time we had about 70 registered and a little over 40 throughout the meeting. So we definitely have gone down in the number of attendees. I was thinking after the meeting, and, you know, happy to brainstorm with this group. I'd love your thoughts. You know, it could be we could just keep doing what we're doing and, you know, have our quarterly meetings and, you know, as we're showing we're adding value, maybe the attendance will pick up. We could try to shift. We've talked about in the planning committee meeting, you know, maybe we go to a little longer cadence between meetings, maybe 4 months, maybe 6 months. Another thought I was having is, you know, maybe as we're getting through the COVID cycle, maybe we try to do these as joint in-person and virtual conferences, and, you know, try to hook up some in-person conferences with other conferences that are going on. That I think co-locate is the word that they use. So we could have OpenSSF conferences every 6 months or something. I don't know. I was just thinking.
Yeah, one comment I have is I know I don't want to give more work for the presenters, but having maybe a dedicated EMA session and a US session might help, though, because it's hard to get the time good for everyone, right?
I'm very sorry. I'm trying to take notes and I don't understand your comment. Can you explain?
Yeah, so I was thinking one time more friendly for the Europe audience and one for the America. Either we could alternate between those, or we could have maybe a duplicate of the town hall. I wonder if that adds some more audience.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And we could also have it, if you're on to do that, you could add another one more friendly to our friends in China and Australia and Japan.
Yeah, I meant like in generic, like, right, not specific to the time zone.
Jennifer, I see you're on and I haven't heard anything from you. I think you maybe had a conflict and weren't at the meeting, but you're good at, you know, thinking about things, conferences and outreach oriented generally. So I'm interested in your thoughts.
On the town halls, I don't know. I think they've been really nice so far. Maybe in promoting them, we should lead up front with what we're going to talk about. Like maybe there's a tweet or you know, in the title of the email, even like, we're going to mention this, this, and this, if there's specific things that might draw people's attention. Other than that, I don't know, maybe it is a cadence thing. Like maybe if we are finding that we're getting late on updates, we could lose engagement, and maybe we do want to cut it to like twice a year or something like that, so that every time we have the meeting, people know that there's going to be a lot coming at them. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, actually. I'm mildly concerned, yeah, about the cadence and the lack of updates, that maybe we're just trying to do, show off too soon before things are really ready, or if there's something interesting to show, right? Because this work does take time. So maybe going to a every 6 months type thing might be beneficial. I think it's something to consider for sure.
We could also think about like the different ways we can provide value. So some of this is definitely working group updates, because it's so nice to be able to get a short summary of what's going on in a working group, and to see that for all 6 groups, and be able to, like, as someone that wants to participate, or even just someone that's monitoring the space, to get a quick summary of what's going on. But we may want to switch up the format, even that we do perhaps shorter updates, and maybe we do an extended session that, like, we're going to do a 20-minute panel on supply chain security, and here's all these people that are really good at this, and media is welcome. Or, maybe we're going to do a deep dive on transitive dependency risk, and we're going to have like a 15-minute presentation that's going to show, a project that's helping us visualize this and some of the stats that came out of it, or whatever. So we find like a hot topic that correlates with either research that's actively or R&D that's actively going on in a working group, or we bring in a mix of folks from the TAC, or from OpenSSF in general, and or perhaps our friends externally as well, and put together like interesting panel discussions perhaps.
This is David Wheeler. I mean, that sounds like an interesting idea. I would just want to make sure, call it something really different, so it's clear that it's different. Maybe, I mean, maybe it's an OpenSSF thing, but it's a completely different event with a completely different name, just to clarify things.
Yeah. Or we could even have it that like we run super on time, and it's like, you join us at this time if you want the OpenSSF updates rundown, which is going to take, let's call it half an hour. And then the second half an hour is going to be this time's deep dive presentation, which is going to be about this, and here's the abstract.
And on that note, actually, we did talk, I think, last TAC, or maybe in the planning meeting, right? Even the town hall word itself is, in some countries, is more political and administrative than a collaborative event, right? So maybe we could change the name.
Rename it. Right. Yeah. Okay, these are all great thoughts, and we'll take these back to the planning meeting, where we are making decisions about town hall. And
maybe one final thing, sorry to interrupt, Kay, just before
sure,
we go
go
to the
ahead.
next topic. Another thing we might want to think about is if there is a way we can make them more interactive, but like meaningfully, not just performatively. So if there were a way that by attending the town hall, you were able to give feedback about either the direction that projects could go or should go, or you somehow get an opportunity to either contribute ideas or thoughts on something, or to contribute to some output thing by attending. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but maybe part of the meeting, instead of the deep dive presentation, maybe it's a facilitated discussion with attendees. And it totally depends who attends as to whether that would be successful or not. But perhaps if people felt that we were somehow giving them the mic at these, like in a meaningful way that influences what we're doing in some way, that could be another option.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool idea.
Mhm.
Crow, you have your hand up.
I just had 2 thoughts. First off, I was negligent in my obligation to help evangelize the event. I was in the middle of a transition, but I think that's something we definitely could do a little better. is making people aware via socials and LinkedIn. I posted like half hour before the call on LinkedIn because I saw it on my calendar, and I got a great response from people, but I don't know that anyone showed up. It's hard to do in the middle of the day. But then my other comment is I enjoyed the new format, and I thought, you know, the deep dive into like what the dashboard was doing, I thought was valuable. So potentially, if we can find something and it becomes more like an online conference or a virtual event, hey, we're going to talk about these topics more involved. I like some of these ideas we've espoused, and I think panels and giving people the ability to pose questions or to grill experts. You know, we're going to bring in the Kubernetes team to talk about how they do signing, and everyone can come learn about that, for example, would be something interesting. Give people a reason to come so they can take something away more than just a readout of what's going on.
Yeah, I
That's
really
like-
like that idea. Like, I think in the past, like in the beginning, it made sense for us to have sort of these administrative updates, right? Because we're introducing ourselves and talking about structure and all that stuff. But it'd be wise, I think, to evolve towards these things that, you know,
Yeah.
you and Jennifer and folks are mentioning. I think moving towards that conference style sounds very beneficial, where we have more interactive panels, we have demos of the work that's being done, and it feels more interesting that way. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of goes hand in hand with some of the working groups that have had, you know, a ton of really awesome presentations that came in, and we want to share some of those things. Like we could, like Jennifer said, pick that hot topic and bring some folks in to give a presentation, and then we have an open panel discussion. And I think that'd be really
Exactly.
I agree. I think you remember Jennifer and Rob, like the fast backstage we did go. They have this cool, like a virtual fireside chat kind of room, like people can go near a discussion and contribute. That could be a better model to get more attendance than like a webinar format. When I forgot the name though, maybe we could find out and see the pricing model for that one.
Yeah, it was like it was like the conference virtual hallway where you could go outside and, you know, people were talking about different topics and you could move yourself around and hear what the different dialogues were. Yeah, I thought that was an excellent tool.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Just to, I slightly off topic and it's not on the agenda, but it'll be 10 seconds. Linux Security Summit CFP is open right now. So just as a parallel thread, we might want to think about what we want to submit there in terms of outreach. So just making the TAC aware. If anyone wants to get involved, message me.
oh, very cool. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Karob. I see you raised your hand.
And I'll add one.
I
more
get my CPE somewhere.
I'll add another thing really quick too, is that I noticed that, so yesterday I've kind of got dueling meetings going on. So CERT is having a vendor conference right now, and they use Discord. So they have a Zoom meeting, and then they have a Discord chat, and I've found that to be highly engaging and a lot of really good discussion on there. I don't know, it's something to consider, something maybe of that nature, or what Rao was, you know, mentioning, that hallway conversation. It's kind of that same vibe, right? But something to help us get that the conversation going.
But by the way, real quick, mentioning the Linux Security Summit, you actually know somebody on the committee, so we would love to hear from you. Bring it in.
That is great news.
Cool. Well, our quick little town hall update turned into a good discussion here. Awesome. Okay, so next thing, so Dan obviously not here, we'll move that to next time. And then before we jump into the roadmap discussion, this is somewhat related actually. So in the Identifying Security Threats Working Group meeting last week, there was a proposal. So Mike Scavetta was talking about, essentially we were talking about typo squatting and a bunch of different things, and you know, all of these things affect a lot of the package vendors, right? And there's a lot of commonality across them. So whether it's NPM or NuGet or whatever, like they all kind of potentially suffer from the same thing, right? And they could all be addressed in a similar way. So he had this really cool idea. I wasn't sure if he's going to be able to make it today, but I'd love to get his direct feedback on this. But I'll just kind of pitch the idea now. We can talk about it in more detail later because Mike is very, very deep in this. But creating either a working group or a forum or whatever we want to call it, but some sort of mechanism or place that these different vendors can kind of come together, possibly within OpenSSF or under the umbrella of it, to have these discussions, almost like a panel in some ways, but more of just a way to share ideas and talk about some of the risks and identify some of the threats and some potential fixes for them. I think this would be a really cool opportunity for us to, one, engage more members of the community, and also to give some of the expertise that a lot of folks in OpenSSF have to help drive some real improvements there. So what do folks think about that, or ideas that they have around how to drive that and make it useful?
Oh, what a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I'm not entirely sure how to facilitate it, but I think it's an awesome idea.
You use the example of package vendors. Like there's probably like different stakeholders at different parts of the ecosystem. Maybe we try it out. Like maybe it's like package manager folks, right? Maybe we do like the OpenSSF, package management security summit, and specifically invite people from that. And then maybe we change focus and host another one in the future that's like the OpenSSF whatever, and we carve out particular like subgroups of audiences that share a security problem or a set of security problems.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. That's a good way to do it. I wonder if we could even like take this idea of what we're thinking about for the next town hall or whatever we're calling it, the idea of a panel, and this could be one of those topics, right? Like package managers and their inherent risks and typo squatting, and then that could turn into an ongoing discussion amongst those people and future conference type settings and things like that, just as a way to sort of kick it off.
Just as a quick note, I love the idea. I would suggest calling them suppliers instead of vendors, because some of them aren't really selling anything. And I think there's kind of almost two sides. There's package managers and the folks who manage the repos, who are not necessarily the same groups.
Yes.
But we need to get those folks talking together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. I'll see if we can pull in Mike Scavetto on a future meeting, and we can kind of do more of a deep dive. But it sounds like this is a plan that everyone is in favor of, so that's exciting.
Yeah, well, this topic came up at the town hall yesterday, so.
Yes.
A simple mechanism from the point of view of what we already have is we could just create another working group if that would be a good idea. I don't know if that's a good idea, just that would be something that could be done.
Yeah, I think like given the way we're structured, yeah, that might be the quick and easy way to do it. How it actually plays out, yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Maybe we could use like an initial summit as a sort of kickoff to see if there's interest, to see what the problems look like in that space. And then if there's buy-in from the group, then we could spin it up into a working group.
Yep.
Like maybe we create these summits, maybe we think of them super in advance, like we calendar out a year's worth of, 2 or 3 of them perhaps. And we invite people well in advance, like a couple months in advance even. And we like hand curate who we're definitely going to reach out to. And it's open to whoever wants, but like we personally dig into like, who are the maintainers of all these different things? Who do we actually need to get involved if it's going to be effective? So that we can have some targeted outreach for it as well.
This was something that the GitHub did a year and a half or so ago, and I don't remember what they called it. It was something like it was held at one of the GitHub multiverse or whatever their conferences are. And I remember William Bartholomew from GitHub was leading it, and they did have representatives from all the major packaging ecosystems there. I'm sure we could get notes from that. And I remember William mentioning that people were interested in meeting again. So I think there might be interest in that. I wasn't at the session, so it's BARTHOLOMEW. Thank you, David.
Maybe you should just fix it.
I don't actually have it open, so I'll,
Oh.
I'll go. I've been thinking, okay, I should go open it. I'll go open it and then I'll do that.
Yeah, maybe there's a opportunity there to, we can get in touch with William, and I know Kay and I both know him, so see if there's an opportunity to partner even with GitHub to continue what maybe the connections they've already done, and then just bring in an OpenSSF flavor to it. Cool. All right, I like that idea. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda, and this can either be very quick or very, very, very long. That is the roadmap. So first off, how many people actually took the time to read this incredibly long but useful document?
I did
Yay.
previously, not since the last meeting, but
So it's been a while. I had to go refresh because I forgot about a lot of the stuff that was in here. So before we dive into it, then maybe what we should do is say, how would folks like to sort of drive the creation of this list? I have a couple of thoughts on it. Because I think what we have been talking about doing is pulling this into essentially like a backlog of some sort, right? So what I was thinking is, leave this document as is, because the way it's structured is great, and I like how it's just fluid, and we can drop ideas in here. If we pull things out as like individual either initiatives or work streams or whatever, single items, pull those into a section as like a GitHub issue in a TAC repo, and we just call them out separately, and then we could have people vote on them as a sort of a stack rank way to figure out what's high priority. That has advantages and disadvantages, right? Like people can just vote for the thing they think is cool, right? But doesn't necessarily fit with our vision and isn't cohesive with the other working groups. Another approach would be for all of us to kind of sit down and collaborate, build a table or document or something where we manually stack rank these ourselves, and then put that out into the GitHub universe and let people join and vote and decide what might be useful as a working group or something that could be a part of another working group. What do folks think about that? How would they like to see us whittle this list down?
I'm not quite answering your question, so I'll preface with that. But maybe one kind of tangential thing I would add is like, it might be useful as well for us to think about things of varying scope. So there might be things that require or that would be most successful with us spinning up a new working group. But I think it would be great for us to pick off a few things that could be smaller projects that a small group of people, perhaps that are already working together, that want to make a contribution in this space could easily just pick up and say, yep, we're going to do this one and deliver without necessarily having the overhead of a working group. Just because I know that, like, I don't know, I guess from the experience that I have in my job running a research team, I have found that I have a working group model there as well, and it works really well, but there's certain things and certain people for which it just breaks down. So we may want to pull off not just a few of the top initiatives that can be done in broad scope that might take several months, that might need a working group, but also if there's smaller things like do a blog post explainer on such and such, or other kinds of like lightweight deliverables that an individual could take on. And we should be clear about how to declare that one is doing the thing so that there's not a duplication of effort.
Yeah, I think that's a really great idea. And it almost kind of feels like if we do that, it would almost just be like, these are work streams within a working group or whatever you want to call them, right? Like they're bite-sized things that, like you said, don't have the overhead of creating a full-blown working group and that sort of thing, and then people can just jump on them. So maybe what we could do is create sort of this list, we break out this list that we're talking about, assign it to potential working groups, or just have a list there that says, okay, yeah, I'm working on this, right? And maybe it's part of a working group or not, but at least there's a way, like you said, to identify it.
Yeah, like maybe there's a repo where you can like come in and claim a thing, and we're clear about how to do that.
Yeah, yeah, like, so maybe, let's see, we could create, a backlog issues within the TAC repo, and then folks could just link to that, and if they assign it to themselves, they've got it, right? Or, a working group could grab it and say, okay, we're all gonna go work on this type thing.
I like the issue approach because then it's very transparent and easy to navigate for status updates and stuff. Like if someone's wondering, oh, so-and-so signed up for this 6 months ago, I wonder how it's going. You can comment in thread, get feedback. And if someone's abandoned the project, you can easily take it over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So then the next question becomes, do we want to go through this whole document together now, or do we want to give ourselves 30 minutes back, go read this separately, and then we can start? Because my approach for this would be pull all this into a document like Excel, probably, like some sort of spreadsheet where we could break these items out individually, determine if everybody agrees that those are the right chunks to distribute them as, and then put them as issues.
I like the idea of like writing it down. I wonder if we could do something like people go through and comment on stuff, or put your initials in a different color at the end of the ideas that you personally think are the most important ones, or some method where we can like kind of get buy-in from the group, but in a way that isn't having to read through it together line by line, because it might make more sense to see other people's ideas in context. But I don't know,
Totally
there's
agree.
many approaches.
So do you want to do that within this document?
That's what I was proposing, but I don't really care. If
Oh.
someone has better ideas.
I would hate to have 20 different documents and then try to keep them in sync.
Yeah.
It's in Google Docs. You could easily just highlight anything you wanted to and add a comment.
I like that approach.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we do that then? Why don't people take, if you want, I'm not going to dictate your time to you, but we do have 25 minutes. So we could end the meeting early and use that time for folks to go through this document, and I should have suggested just highlight things that we look at that look like reasonable chunks of work, and then say, hey, I think this is important. Let's break this out. And then when we reconvene next time, we can review that and then see which ones we actually want to pull into actual issues within the TAC repo. And I can just, as administrative overhead, go ahead and just create the tags and things so we're all ready to go once we decide to do that. And then we can just pull that in and then share it with everybody after the fact.
This is great. This feels like very TAC kind of stuff to do. I love it.
Yeah, I'm very I love this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, as a note, when people are going through, it might make sense to also highlight what are good beginner projects, like if people just trying to get involved that might not have a ton of experience.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that a lot. The sort of ease of use and where you can jump in. Okay, so are folks cool with that? I don't want to end the meeting if you guys still want to chat.
We probably ought to put a link to the Google Doc here.
Let me do that. I forget that since I have it open.
If you'll copy and paste that link to the,
You can scroll down a couple meetings back. That's what I did.
Yeah, and I'll drop it in the doc here.
if he drops it into what you're looking at right now, the odds increase.
It's true.
Put it in the chat, and it's in the.
There it is.
Yay.
And I know when technology works, copy and paste.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to kill off any ideas, but I think in the end, it doesn't matter what folks say would be a good idea if nobody will work on it. So if anyone is willing to actually work on an item, I would encourage them to say so.
Mhm.
We
Yeah,
could
and I think
also do something. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
no, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was just going to say, we could also do something where if you're willing to be like a mentor or like an advisor to someone working on something, that could be helpful as well, because I've noticed sometimes people are shy, especially beginners, but not exclusively. And sometimes they're waiting for a kind of permission. So optionally, we may also want to include, like, if you need a mentor to work on this project, you can reach out to any of these people and they'll be your mentor.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Love it. That could even be something that we could track either within the TAC repo or individual working group repos where people say, hey, I can help in these areas. And so it's actually, we have a thing at Microsoft that's very similar. We call it the open source champs program. It's company wide, but it's all the people at the company that have a lot of knowledge in open source and can help people out, right? You can go to the central place and be like, I'm good at open source security, or I'm good at NPM, or I'm good, whatever. And so if someone needs help, you can go to that list and, really engage with. And it's been pretty
That's
successful. So maybe if we do something kind of similar to that, like it could be pretty useful.
Yeah, because something I've been noticing a lot is like I'll be working with someone that honestly they have, I would consider it pretty close to expert level knowledge. And they go, well, I don't really know enough about that. And it's often the people that know the most that sometimes kind of think and know that they've just hit the tip of the iceberg. So providing mechanisms that people feel more secure to contribute, anything we could do is probably helpful.
Yeah.
I don't have a good solution for that one, Jennifer, because I think indeed, the more you know something, the more you realize the less you know.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say exactly that. Yep.
I live in that space, so I don't know how to solve that one, but I appreciate the problem.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, these are some wonderful ideas. I think we can kind of think about how best to structure that, but I think maybe just even creating sort of a markdown file on GitHub somewhere, people can add themselves to the list and designate what expertise they have and give context would be super, super useful. And in the meantime, let's all go through this document that is conveniently linked here and go highlight the things you think are cool and important, and then we'll use that for our follow-up discussion in 2 weeks, at which hopefully Dan will be available and can give us his presentation as well. So, any other questions, comments, concerns before we wrap up?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everybody. A great meeting. And
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Al.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.